Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone. Emotional honesty doesn't ask if you're ready. It asks what you're willing to lose to be real. Emotional honesty begins quietly, almost imperceptibly, inside the spaces you tend to avoid. It starts with noticing the little truths that you've been skirting around for weeks, months, or even years. The moments when your heart tightens, when your stomach knots, or when a thought rises and you push it down with a laugh or a shrug. Those are the moments that matter the most. The whispers of your inner self trying to be seen. Most of us have learned early on that discomfort is something to run from. Feeling too much, acknowledging what's difficult, admitting that you are not okay, all of these feel dangerous. And so we shrink ourselves, quietly tuck pieces away, and tell ourselves that we are fine, that everything is under control. But the truth doesn't disappear just because we refuse to face it. It lingers in the corners of our mind, in the silence before sleep, in the anxious thoughts that we try to ignore. Pretending we are fine is easier, yes, but it comes at a cost. Every time we turn away from our own truth, we lose a little more of the connection with ourselves. The things we avoid eventually find ways to show up, sometimes in anger, sometimes in exhaustion, sometimes in the quiet ache of longing we cannot name. To begin practicing emotional honesty, the first step is simply awareness, noticing what is real without judgment, admitting to yourself what has been quietly pressing in your heart. It is naming the discomfort, the sadness, the fear, or the longing that you have been avoiding and allowing it to exist without trying to fix it immediately. Awareness is not about labeling yourself as weak or flawed. It is about recognizing your humanity and giving yourself permission to feel. This is the practice that leads to courage, the courage to face the truths we often avoid, the courage to stop protecting others from our reality at the expense of our own emotional health. One way to start is simple. Pause even for a moment and ask yourself what you are feeling. Speak it, write it, or simply breathe it into existence. Notice the places where you say I'm fine when you are anything but. When you see it, when you name it, you give yourself the first gift of honesty, the acknowledgement that your emotions are valid, that your inner life deserves attention, and that you are not alone in feeling the weight of what you have been holding. Awareness is the bridge between living in performance and living in truth. And it is the foundation upon which everything else, the courage, the vulnerability, the growth, will rest. Feeling is something we are often taught to control, to minimize, or to hide altogether. From the earliest days of our lives, we pick up the unspoken rules that sadness should be endured quietly, that anger should be contained, that neediness is a burden to others. We learn that showing too much, letting anyone see the raw edges of our emotions, will make us appear weak, vulnerable, or unworthy. And so we build walls, brick by brick, around the parts of ourselves that feel too much, that ache too deeply, that long too loudly. But the truth is that those walls, while offering the illusion of protection, also cut us off from the very life we want to live. They cut us off from connection, from clarity, from the courage to move forward authentically. Emotional honesty is not simply about speaking our truth. It begins with the act of letting ourselves feel. It is the willingness to sit with discomfort, to welcome the full range of our emotions without judgment, and to resist the urge to numb, distract, or deny. This is not an easy practice. It asks us to confront the parts of ourselves that we have spent years trying to avoid. It requires acknowledging that what we are feeling is valid and meaningful, even when it is inconvenient. Inconvenient not only to others, but to the version of ourselves that prefers safety and certainty. When we allow ourselves to feel, we often discover that our emotions are messier than we expected. They are layered, contradictory, and sometimes overwhelming. We may feel sadness and anger at the same time. We may feel love and fear intertwined. It is this complexity that makes emotional honesty both frightening and necessary. Many of us have learned to fear our own intensity, to believe that if we feel too deeply, we will lose control or be judged. Yet the reality is that feeling fully is an act of courage. It is a way of showing up for ourselves in the most intimate and profound way. There is a quiet resistance that rises when we attempt to feel our emotions fully. It comes as self-criticism. You shouldn't feel this way. You're overreacting, or this is a sign of weakness. It comes as distraction, scrolling endlessly on a phone, binge watching a show, or immersing ourselves in work to avoid the uncomfortable truth of what is happening inside. It comes as avoidance in relationships, keeping conversations shallow, or rehearsing the perfect response to hide what we are truly feeling. All of these tactics might offer temporary relief, but they ultimately prevent us from living fully and authentically. Allowing ourselves to feel is not about indulging every emotion, nor is it about losing control. It is about learning to be present with the truth of our internal experience without needing to fix it, suppress it, or explain it to anyone else. It is about recognizing that our emotions are guides, pointing us toward what matters, what needs attention, and what has been neglected. When we name our sadness, our fear, our frustration, or our longing, we give it space to exist. And in doing so, we give ourselves permission to respond rather than react. This practice begins in small, quiet ways. It might start with noticing the tightness in your chest when you are anxious and simply saying, "I see you. I feel this." It might be acknowledging to yourself the ache of loss or the sting of disappointment without trying to diminish it with rationalization. It might be allowing tears to come without hiding them or shaming yourself for feeling them. Each small act of recognition builds trust with yourself. Each acknowledgement, no matter how subtle, tells you that your emotions are valid and that you are capable of meeting them with compassion. One of the most difficult aspects of this work is facing emotions that are uncomfortable or even frightening. Fear, shame, guilt, and grief can feel unbearable if approached too quickly or without support. But when we resist them, when we push them away or ignore them, they grow heavier, more persistent, more insistent. They manifest in irritability, exhaustion, anxiety, or withdrawal. The only way to move through these emotions is to allow ourselves to experience them fully, to let ourselves feel the depths of what we have been avoiding. This does not happen all at once. It is a gradual process, a daily commitment to showing up for ourselves even when it is difficult. Learning to feel is also an act of self-compassion. It asks us to approach our emotions with curiosity rather than judgment, to ask, what is this emotion trying to tell me, rather than immediately trying to change or escape it. It invites us to notice patterns where we shut down, what triggers our discomfort, and what we have been taught to believe about our right to feel. With practice, we begin to understand that our emotions are not enemies, they are messengers. They reveal our desires, our boundaries, and our needs. They teach us about the life we truly want to live and the relationships we wish to nurture. Emotional honesty also requires patience. There will be days when the weight of feeling is too heavy, when the tears come unexpectedly, or when the fear of being too much threatens to overwhelm. These moments are not failures. They are signs that you are on the path to authenticity. They are reminders that courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to show up anyway, even when it is uncomfortable. Over time, each act of feeling becomes easier, more natural, and more integrated into daily life. As we allow ourselves to feel, we also open the door to deeper connections with others. When we stop hiding behind walls, when we resist the urge to perform or please, we become more present, more genuine, and more capable of forming meaningful relationships. Others respond to authenticity because it invites them to do the same. Emotional honesty is contagious. It creates space for trust, empathy, and vulnerability in ways that superficial interactions never can. The practice of feeling fully does not require grand gestures or dramatic confessions. It begins in ordinary moments, noticing the lump in your throat when someone hurts you, sitting quietly with your fear before making a decision, naming the joy that surprises you in a small moment of gratitude. It is consistent, gentle, and intentional, and it is transformative. By allowing ourselves to feel, we reclaim ownership of our inner world, reconnect with our humanity, and create the conditions for courage, resilience, and growth. If you want to begin, start simple. Pause each day to check in with yourself. Ask, what am I feeling right now? Accept the first answer that comes without overthinking it. Sit with that feeling for a few moments. Breathe into it. Notice where it shows up in your body. Resist the urge to fix it immediately. Then slowly over time, notice how your ability to tolerate and understand your emotions grows. This is not a quick fix, and it is not a one-time task. It is a lifelong practice, a commitment to living fully, honestly, and with courage. Feeling is not indulgence. Feeling is strength. It is a demonstration of self-respect, of willingness, and of integrity. It is the quiet, courageous act of standing in your own truth, even when it is difficult. And it is the foundation for everything that comes next. The courage to speak, the clarity to act, the freedom to grow. Each time you allow yourself to feel without shame or judgment, you are taking a step toward a life lived fully. A life where emotional honesty is not feared but embraced, not avoided but honored, and not suppressed but celebrated. Speaking your truth is one of the most difficult things a human can do. It is easier to remain silent, to soften your words, to shrink in the presence of others, because the world has conditioned us to believe that honesty comes at a cost. And it often does. To speak what you feel, what you need, or what you see clearly can threaten comfort, disrupt relationships, or challenge expectations that have been built over years. Yet it is precisely in this act, this brave, trembling act, that transformation begins. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite it, to voice what matters even when the body quakes and the mind protests. Most of us know fear intimately. Fear whispers that we should protect ourselves, that we should keep quiet to avoid judgment, rejection, or conflict. Fear tells us that saying what is true will create distance or provoke anger, and it is a compelling voice because it often speaks from experience. We have been hurt before, dismissed before, overlooked, or misunderstood before. It is natural to want to avoid that pain. Yet the irony is that when we remain silent, we often inflict a different kind of pain on ourselves. We live in tension with our own integrity, knowing in our hearts that we are not being fully present or authentic. This internal conflict weighs on us, and over time, it can erode our sense of self, our confidence, and our joy. Courage and emotional honesty is about reclaiming that power, the power to live aligned with your truth. It is about recognizing that approval, acceptance, or validation from others is fleeting and unreliable. But your inner alignment is enduring. Speaking honestly does not mean speaking harshly or recklessly. It means choosing words that reflect your reality, your needs, and your boundaries, even if those words are difficult to utter. It requires listening to the voice inside you, the one that has been muted by fear, shame, or the desire to be liked, and giving it space to be heard. There is a profound inner struggle that emerges when we attempt this kind of courage. Doubt arises quickly. Am I overreacting? Is this worth the fallout? Will I be understood? We question our own right to be heard, to exist fully, to express our feelings. And yet within that struggle lies the key to freedom. The fact that we are afraid does not disqualify us from speaking. It validates the importance of what we have to say. Fear signals that we are stepping into a space that matters. It signals that we are pushing against old patterns of avoidance and suppression. The act of speaking your truth also demands a certain vulnerability. It is a paradox. To protect ourselves, we often hide. To grow, we must expose. Saying what we feel, setting boundaries, or admitting our mistakes makes us vulnerable to judgment, criticism, or even rejection. But the deeper risk is not in being seen. It is in continuing to hide, to play small, and to live in quiet compromise with our own integrity. Courage does not guarantee comfort or approval, but it guarantees authenticity. And authenticity is the foundation of all meaningful relationships, all deep connections, and all lasting self-respect. Courage is also learned through repetition. The first few times we speak honestly, it can feel terrifying. The heart pounds, the voice trembles, and we wonder if the cost is too high. But each act, no matter how small, strengthens the connection with ourselves. Each time we express a need, a feeling, or a boundary with clarity and respect, we prove to ourselves that we are capable of being seen and heard without crumbling. Over time, the fear becomes less paralyzing, less consuming. It does not disappear entirely. Courage is never about fearlessness, but becomes manageable because we have practiced stepping into the truth anyway. There is also an important distinction to make. Courage is not the same as aggression or confrontation. Emotional honesty requires a balance between firmness and empathy. It is about speaking clearly, calmly, and intentionally without lashing out or trying to force others to see our perspective. It is about holding your own truth while remaining open to listening, understanding, and learning. Courage is not about winning arguments. It is about being faithful to your own inner life. Many of us avoid courageous honesty because of the imagined consequences. We rehearse the worst case scenarios endlessly, convincing ourselves that silence is safer. And in some cases, it is temporarily safer. But what we fail to see is that avoidance comes at a slow, hidden cost.
Silence breeds resentment, confusion, and self-doubt.
It erodes trust in ourselves because we begin to doubt our own right to exist fully and expressively. Each moment we remain silent in the face of what we know to be true is a moment we betray our own integrity. Courage asks us to stop betraying ourselves. The courage to speak honestly also opens the door to change. When we voice our feelings, our boundaries, or our needs, we create possibilities that were previously impossible. Relationships that felt stagnant may shift, connections may deepen, and misunderstandings may dissolve. At the very least, we create alignment between our inner reality and our outer expression. There is a profound sense of relief, of lightness, when the truth is spoken. Even if others respond poorly, even if conflict arises, there is dignity in knowing that we did not compromise our own soul to preserve comfort. Courage is learned in small, intentional steps. It might begin with something as simple as saying, "I need a moment to think," when you are overwhelmed. It could be telling someone, "This hurt me," instead of brushing it off. It could be setting a boundary quietly and clearly without over-explaining or apologizing unnecessarily. Each act, though seemingly small, strengthens your capacity to stand in truth and face fear without shrinking. Over time, these acts compound, creating a new identity, one that is capable of honesty, resilience, and self-respect. Perhaps the most profound truth about courage is this: it is contagious. When we dare to speak honestly, we inspire others to do the same. Our vulnerability gives permission to those around us to show up authentically, to shed pretense, and to engage deeply. Courage is never just personal. It ripples outward, touching others in ways that we may never see, fostering connection, trust, and empathy. To begin practicing courage, start small. Notice one truth you have been avoiding. Identify one moment where you have stayed silent out of fear. Take a deep breath, honor the fear, and speak that truth, first to yourself, then to someone you trust. Observe the sensations in your body, the resistance that arises, and the subtle relief that follows. Repeat this practice consistently. Courage is a muscle. It grows stronger through use. Speaking your truth is not easy. It is uncomfortable, frightening, and often messy. but it is also liberating, grounding, and profoundly life-affirming. It is the path toward integrity, the bridge between who you are and who you are becoming. It is the gateway to growth, connection, and emotional freedom. And it begins with a simple choice to speak, to be seen, to honor your own inner life, even when the world around you may resist. Change is one of the most challenging parts of emotional honesty because it asks us to release something we have held tightly for a long time. We cling to old versions of ourselves, the roles we have performed, the masks we have worn because they feel safe, familiar, and predictable. Letting go feels like stepping into the unknown. And the unknown is terrifying. It is filled with questions we cannot answer. Who will I be if I stop performing? Will people still accept me? Will I be enough without these shields? And yet transformation cannot occur without this willingness to loosen our grip, to make space for what is real, true, and authentic inside of us. The struggle to change often appears in subtle ways. We may notice an urge to shrink back when faced with honesty, to revert to old habits, to perform what is expected of us rather than what is true. These moments feel like failure, as if the comfort of the familiar has trapped us in patterns we cannot break. But the reality is that change is rarely sudden. It is not a dramatic event or an immediate reversal. Change is a process, a slow, sometimes painful unraveling of habits, beliefs, and roles that no longer serve us. Every act of honesty, every small moment of self-awareness loosens the chains of pretense and prepares us for growth. One of the deepest fears in the process of change is the fear of disappointing others. We have spent years cultivating identities that were designed to be acceptable, lovable, or respectable in the eyes of family, friends, and society. To step away from these identities can feel like betrayal, not just to others, but to the person we believed we needed to be. And yet the paradox is that by clinging to these old versions, we betray ourselves. We trade our authenticity for temporary comfort, and the cost is far greater than any perceived loss in approval. When we release who we pretend to be, we open the door to who we were always meant to become. Change also brings discomfort because it forces us to confront the truth about our own complicity in patterns that no longer serve us. We must look at the ways we have tolerated less than we deserve, the ways we have silenced our own voice, and the moments when fear dictated our actions. These realizations can be uncomfortable even, painful, because they confront us with our own human perfection. Yet acknowledging this truth is essential. Without this recognition, we risk repeating old patterns, believing that nothing needs to shift and continuing to live a life filtered through the expectations of others rather than guided by our inner compass. Emotional honesty requires a willingness to change, not just in small ways, but at the level of our identities and self-concept. It is not enough to speak truth or feel deeply. We must also allow ourselves to evolve. This might mean letting go of behaviors, habits, or relationships that no longer align with our values. It might mean redefining success, adjusting priorities, or reimagining the way we interact with the world. Change is a process of realignment, a recalibration of life so that our outer actions reflect our inner truth. The inner struggle of change is often met with resistance. Fear, doubt, guilt, and anxiety appear almost immediately. We may question our own judgment, wonder if we're too sensitive or too demanding, or worry about the consequences of our choices. Change requires patience and self-compassion because these feelings are normal and part of the journey. The key is not to eliminate fear or doubt, but to move forward despite them. The act of stepping into uncertainty, of releasing what no longer serves you, is a declaration of faith in yourself. It is a recognition that your life is yours to shape and that you deserve to live it in alignment with who you truly are. There is also a profound liberation in change. When we release the identities, roles, and behaviors that were keeping us small, we create space for new possibilities. We make room for deeper connection, greater clarity, and authentic growth. Life becomes less about performance and more about presence, less about pleasing others and more about honoring ourselves. This liberation is not instantaneous, it is gradual, often invisible at first, but deeply transformative over time. Each moment of letting go, each boundary set, each small act of courage compounds, reshaping our inner and outer worlds. Change also requires a commitment to self-reflection. It is not enough to simply decide to let go of something. We must understand why we held on to it in the first place. What fear were we protecting ourselves from? What belief kept us locked in old patterns? By examining these questions honestly, we gain insight into our own emotional architecture and create a roadmap for sustainable change. This process is not always comfortable, but it is empowering. Knowledge of our inner workings allows us to navigate life with intention rather than reaction. Another critical aspect of change is the willingness to embrace discomfort. Emotional honesty does not exist in the realm of comfort. Growth is messy. Boundaries may be tested, relationships may shift, expectations may be challenged. And yet, discomfort is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of progress. It signals that we are moving beyond old constraints, stepping into a more authentic version of ourselves, and refusing to settle for less than our truth. To practice this kind of change, start with one small act. Identify one area where you have been holding on unnecessarily, an outdated belief, a self-limiting story, or a role you no longer wish to perform. Reflect on why you have held on to it. Acknowledge the fear or discomfort tied to letting it go and take one intentional step toward release. It could be expressing a need honestly, setting a boundary you have been avoiding, or simply allowing yourself to stop performing for approval. Over time, these small acts accumulate, creating momentum for larger transformation. Change is not a linear path. There will be moments of regression, doubt, or hesitation. There will be days when the old habits feel safer, and the fear of the unknown threatens to pull you back. This is natural. What matters is the willingness to continue, to keep returning to honesty and alignment even when it is uncomfortable. Each step forward, however small, is a victory, a proof of your resilience, and a testament to the power of living authentically. Ultimately, change is a gift to ourselves. It is a reclamation of our lives from the constraints of fear, expectation, and habit. It allows us to live in alignment with our values, to speak our truth with courage, and to feel our emotions fully. It is the bridge between vulnerability and growth, the doorway to a life lived intentionally rather than reactively. By embracing change, we honor the truth that we are not static beings, but evolving, capable, and worthy of living fully. Each moment of letting go, each courageous choice to realign, brings us closer to the life we were always meant to live. Living from the inside out is the culmination of emotional honesty. It is the moment when awareness, vulnerability, courage, and change converge into a life that is no longer dictated by fear, expectation, or the need for approval. It is the place where self-trust and authenticity take root, where the weight of performing disappears, and where life feels aligned with the deepest truths of your heart. This kind of growth is not flashy or immediate. It's quiet, persistent, and profoundly transformative. It is a slow unfolding of a life lived in integrity with who you truly are. The struggle to reach this place is real. Even after we have faced our fears, embraced vulnerability, spoken our truths, and let go of what no longer serves us, doubt and insecurity remain. Old patterns still whisper in our minds. Old fears resurface unexpectedly. There are moments when we wonder if it is worth it, if honesty and courage will truly bring freedom, if others will accept the person we have become. And yet, it is precisely in these moments of uncertainty that the practice of living authentically matters most. Choosing alignment over comfort, truth over avoidance, and integrity over approval is the ultimate act of self-respect. Living from the inside out requires trust in yourself. It requires believing that your feelings are valid, that your needs are important, and that your inner guidance is reliable. This trust is not built overnight. It grows with each act of emotional honesty, each moment of courage, each boundary set, and each choice to honor your inner truth. Over time, you begin to notice a shift. The voice of fear becomes quieter. The need for external validation diminishes, and clarity of your own direction grows stronger. You begin to recognize that living authentically is not only possible, it is sustainable, deeply fulfilling, and profoundly liberating. There is a subtle power in living this way. It is not a power that comes from control over others, from achievements, or from being seen as perfect. It is a quiet power that arises from alignment, from the confidence that comes from knowing you are living true to yourself. This power manifests in every decision, every interaction, and every relationship. You begin to notice the difference in the way you engage with others, not from a place of obligation or performance, but from a place of presence and honesty. You attract people and experiences that resonate with your truth, and you let go of what no longer aligns without guilt or regret. Living from the inside out also means embracing your emotions fully without shame or avoidance. You no longer need to hide sadness, fear, anger, or longing. You welcome these emotions as teachers, guides, and signals that show you what matters, what needs attention, and what has been neglected. You respond rather than react. You recognize that feeling deeply does not make you fragile. It makes you human. And in that humanness, you discover resilient strength and the ability to navigate life's challenges with grace and clarity. The journey to this place requires ongoing reflection. You must remain attuned to your inner life, checking in regularly to see if your actions, decisions, and words align with your truth. This requires honesty, patience, and sometimes difficult self-examination. You may notice moments when you revert to old patterns, when fear or self-doubt threatens to pull you back. These moments are not failures. They are opportunities to practice again, to recommit to yourself, and to strengthen your inner alignment. Each choice to act with authenticity reinforces the foundation of a life lived fully. There is also a profound freedom in living authentically. You no longer carry the weight of pretense, of trying to please everyone, or of conforming to expectations that do not reflect your values. You no longer measure your worth by external validation. Instead, you measure it by the integrity with which you live your own truth. This freedom allows you to embrace life more fully, to experience joy and connection without reservation, and to engage with the world from a place of curiosity, compassion, and courage. Growth in emotional honesty is not simply about the absence of fear. It is about choosing alignment in spite of fear. It is about recognizing that discomfort, uncertainty, and resistance are part of the process, and that each step you take toward authenticity strengthens your resilience. You begin to see that living from the inside out is not a destination, but a lifelong practice. It is an ongoing commitment to self-awareness, vulnerability, courage, and integrity. Each day offers a new opportunity to show up honestly, to speak your truth, and to honor your emotional experience. This way of living transforms not only your inner world, but your relationships and interactions as well. When you are authentic, you invite others to be authentic. You create spaces where honesty, empathy, and trust can flourish. You let go of superficial performances and allow connection to deepen in ways that are meaningful and sustaining. Others respond to the integrity and consistency in your actions and your presence. Becomes a quiet but powerful source of inspiration. To practice living from the inside out, start with small intentional acts each day. Check in with your emotions and name them without judgment. Speak your truth, even in minor situations where silence feels easier. Revisit decisions and boundaries regularly to ensure they align with your inner values. Celebrate the moments when you act with honesty and courage, and treat setbacks as opportunities for learning rather than evidence of failure. Over time, These practices compound, creating a life where emotional honesty, resilience, and authenticity are not goals to reach, but the natural state of being. Living authentically requires courage, patience, and trust, but it is one of the most rewarding paths a human can take. It is a life where emotional honesty is honored, where your choices reflect your deepest values, and where growth is experienced as a continual unfolding rather than a single achievement. In this life, you are not ruled by fear, obligation, or expectation. You are guided by the steady, quiet compass of your own truth. It is a life rich with meaning, connection, and freedom, and it is available to anyone willing to practice the courage, vulnerability, and self-reflection that emotional honesty requires. Ultimately, living from the inside out is about reclaiming your life. It is about stepping fully into who you are, embracing the totality of your emotions, and creating a path that is uniquely your own. It is about understanding that you are worthy of honesty, connection, and love, not because of what you do or achieve, but because of who you are when you show up authentically. And when you live this way, you discover the profound truth that the bravest, most fulfilling life is the one lived fully, honestly, and in alignment with your deepest self.